Hello guys! So I know it's been a really long time since I made any video at all, let alone a tutorial, but somebody messaged me and asked me if I could do a jacket sewing tutorial. And since I am actually trying to work on a jacket right now, I figured, sure. So today, I'm going to be making a jacket out of pleather, which is it doesn't act like typical fabrics, but, you know, it'll work for the purposes of demonstration. So the things you'll need is your fabric, some pins, scissors, a pencil or pen, and then, of course, the obvious stuff, a sewing machine, needle, thread, things like that. I do not use patterns, so if you're going to follow me, you don't need a pattern. Now, I have one additional material which you don't absolutely have to have, but if you can get one, it's awesome. This is my body double. So let's get started with our jacket. I have a different tutorial up that shows you how to make a simple basic shirt. Making a jacket really isn't very different from that. You're gonna start the same way. So, in the shirt video, I took one of my own t-shirts that doesn't stretch or, stretch out in any way, and I used that as the pattern. Well, you can just do that again. You can take a t-shirt and lay it on your fabric and trace it twice, and you have your two sides of the jacket. Now, if you have a lovely assistant, like I have, then you can simply, drape your fabric and measure right on this model. I have a shirt pattern traced out on this fabric. You can't see it because it's light. But you'll notice that as of right now, things are exactly the same as the shirt tutorial. I took a shirt, I folded in the sleeves, and I traced it on folded over fabric. Now, here's where it's going to be a little different. If this was a shirt, you would just cut out, the two shirts that you traced and kind of sew them together. But since this is a jacket, first thing you want to do is make sure you have extra seam allowance. So the seam allowance is you traced your shirt, and let's say your shirt was this big. That's how much fabric it took up. The seam allowance is you take this and you add a couple inches. So now the shirt becomes much wider than you actually need it to be. It's much wider than me. For a jacket, this is super, super important. It's extra important with a jacket. You need a little more seam allowance, at least the way that I do jackets. So, make sure you have a couple extra inches everywhere, and then cut out your shapes. I have my shapes cut out of pleather. They're really teeny tiny, because my jacket is going to be really teeny tiny. But here's the thing. Now, if this was a shirt, I would have one of these for the front and one of these for the back. Obviously, that's not going to work with these. They're too small. And that's intentional. Because instead of cutting it into two pieces for a jacket, I'm going to cut it into four. So there's going to be a piece here and a piece here and then two more on the back. Now, why do you want to do this for a jacket? Because a jacket zips, or the jacket should in some way be open in the front. Whether it's a button or a zipper or there's nothing at all, it's just hanging open, it doesn't matter. It's still four pieces, two on the front and two on the back. The two on the back are sewn together and sewn to the two on the front, and the two in the front are left open. So, that's a little confusing. But for now, just worry about cutting out your shirt pattern with lots of seam allowance into four pieces. Two for the front and 2 more for the back. I have pinned up my lovely assistant so that I can give you a basic idea of how to finish this off now. So, like I said before, I have 4 pieces, 2 in the front and 2 in the back. My jacket is really super short. I am expecting it to come up to about here when it's completely finished. That's not for everybody. If you trace your shirt, you want it down to here, make it down to here. If you want it here, all the way down to your ankles, it doesn't matter. The process is basically the same, no matter what the length of the jacket. So, this is going to be just like a shirt. I'm going to sew right along here, leaving an armhole, and then I'm going to do the same on the other side. So just like a shirt, I sew the front to the back right outside on this edge here. You leave a space for the armhole, but you just sew this seam down the side of your body shut. And then the front is connected to the back. Now with a jacket, you have the additional step of sewing the back shut. And this is good for some shirts as well, because it makes a really cool, nice looking seam all the way down your back. Just be careful that you make sure that it's absolutely straight, because if it is, kind of slanted or wiggity, then people will definitely see it when it's going down your back. So be careful with the seam, but definitely use it because it looks really nice. So, you have the back sewn to the back and the back sewn to the front. Now the front is going to stay open. It's a jacket after all. So for this to be open is perfectly okay. That's kind of what you want. So again, just like your shirt, you now have to sew the shoulders. So above you have your side sewn and you have your armhole open. I can pull out the sleeve a little bit so that you can see that the armhole is open. And then you sew along the shoulder. Now how far in you want to take it is totally up to you. With a jacket you have a little bit more leeway than with a shirt. I'm losing pins. With a shirt, since it is closed down the front, you have to be really careful about the neck opening. With a jacket, since it's open in the front, if you want to take this jacket in pretty close to your neck, you can definitely do that. It's really up to you. So you could start with only sewing it a little bit, and then bring it all the way in, or leave it out. It really depends on how the jacket works on you when you're done. So, you've got the shoulders sewn, the back sewn, the sides sewn. Now, the front, you're still leaving open. That is perfectly okay. You can just leave them open like that. The next thing you're going to need to do is hem. And hemming is the same whether it's a shirt, pair of pants, whatever. It's simply folding it over twice and then sewing it shut so that you have a nice hemline all the way around. So you need to do that as well. And if you want a collar, that is a totally separate piece of fabric. Again, it's 4 pieces of fabric connected, but I would suggest doing it later, at like this stage. The only thing that's left is clasps. If you buy a zipper, there will be instructions on the zipper on how to sew it. If you buy buttons, buttons are pretty self-explanatory. So, you can just put in a clasp or not on the front, and then you will have your jacket. Ta-da!